Hey everybody, welcome back to Pardonable Live. I'm your host, David Lilly, and this is Pardonable Live. It's Sunday night. It's 8:30. We're hanging out as usual. I'm going to be going over a few things, a few topics. Title of tonight's episode is Rated R for R Word. So just a heads up if you're just tuning in or if you're listening to this later. Going to be a lot of use of the term R word, the R word. We're going to be talking a lot about that, the use of it, the meaning of language, when to use it, when not to use it, what does it mean, and all that fun jazz. And if you're like, what, the R word, retarded? We're talking about the word retarded. Now, truthfully, I don't know what is allowed on what platforms, and I'm streaming, I think, to YouTube, Twitch, X, kicking, I think Rumble. Rumble has been a little finicky, so I'm not sure if I'm streaming on there. But if you're an R word and you love this podcast, go ahead and like and subscribe on any of that because you're a jabroni. You're R worded jabroni. I'm joking. No, if you're a jabroni, I'm trying to overuse the R word because I'm also chat's open, and I'm gonna go ahead and assume if there's some chatty folks watching tonight, the chat's gonna be blowing up with the R word. So just a heads up, I'm probably gonna read a bunch of those. So just buckle in. It's gonna be a fun one tonight. It's gonna be a real difficult topic for me as an R word to figure out how to not overuse it because it's going to be used a lot tonight. Either way. But before we get started, guys, go and like and subscribe. You know the routine. Like, subscribe on all those platforms if I haven't been kicked off them yet for dropping the R word too many times. Like and subscribe on all those. Also, if you like this podcast, you might like my friends too, because my friends are a bit creative. I'm a creative person, and I seem to, surround myself by creative people. And one of my friends is so creative. He makes cool T-shirts like this one I'm wearing right now. Now you can't really see. It says Bohemian Grove. It's got an owl, and right up underneath it, it says Alex Jones was right. This was made by my good friend from Who Touched the Thermostat. If you go to whotouchedit.com, you can get this exact T-shirt. Now, this is probably one of my favorite ones on the website. He's got a bunch of other cool ones, even right here on this little ad. It says "Do not comply." That's a great one. That would have come in handy in 2020 when you were going through that, but it's coming in handy every day now. And abolish the IRS. That's some big news. We're going to talk about tariffs as well. But go to whotouchedit.com, buy you a shirt, buy you a Bohemian Grove shirt. Again, it was one of my favorite ones on the website. Had to get it for myself. That's what happens when you're a creative person. You surround yourself by like-minded people. A bunch of R words. They create a bunch of R-worded content, T-shirts, and stuff like that. Not all my friends are content creators. They actually create things, and that's the beautiful thing behind it, guys. We're going to talk about the protests right off the bat. I don't know if you know this, but protests sparking all over the U.S. this week. I saw a few in person. I'm going to tell you a quick story about that. I was out in Connecticut, bit of a small town. They had a protest. They had a protest going on not far from where I was going. I was going to Home Depot. And they were protesting. I think there was one person out there protesting for Trump and Vance. And I thought that was neat because the rest of the crowd was not happy with Trump or Elon. And so I did my civic duty, and I was driving to Home Depot like I normally do in my truck. And I just happened to put on Lee Greenwood's Proud to Be an American. And I rolled all the windows down and cranked it and drove very slowly in front of the protesters. Because I thought if they were genuine protesters, they would have loved that song too. Because who's not proud to be an American, even when the government's not on your side? And that's like me all the time. Doesn't mean even Trump's in it. The government doesn't feel like it's on my side. And the reason behind that is because the government is most likely run by a bunch of R words who go to the Bohemian Grove. Go to whotouchedit.com. Buy you the shirt. But no, seriously. It seems like we're always surrounded by R words, and they're all the ones in power. So the protest was going on tonight, and I thought we'd pull up this one clip. I found this one clip. And I thought this was convenient for the topic of the night. Again, if you're listening to this with your kids, have mercy, grace be upon them. A lot of R words being dropped, a lot of examples of the R word. And so anyway, here's a video of a protest that I think ties in something deeper of what we're going through in our society. So take a look at this guy.
Get out of here.
Hold on. Should have mentioned. So, because if you're just listening to this sounds awful. It's just a ring in your ear. Matter of fact, I could try to pull the volume down. Nope, I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to let you deal with it. A guy's at a protest, one of these ones over the weekend, and he had a metal detector that's ringing, and on it says retard finder. and he's just waving it in front of protests. If you're just listening to this, so that ringing in your ear is not you. It's the
Don't
video.
touch people.
Sorry.
Come on, keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands. They're so. Why do you always go to violence and keying Teslas and throwing Molotov cocktails? Why do you always have to get violent? Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest.
All right, I'm going to point out one thing too, and this seems to pop up all the time. Every time I do a video of the protest, and again, I like protests. I think protests are great, even if I don't agree or even understand. This one says, make Elon, see the sign? Make Elon go away. Just make him go away. That's a great sign. Nothing, no policy, nothing, just make him go away. And I like it because they highlighted the words, they make Elon go away, and it says mega. And I think it's supposed to be play on MAGA, but instead they're like, MAGA, we're for MAGA now. Make Elon go away. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of creative. It's kind of clever. No, that's definitely R-worded. Definitely R-worded. But the other thing I wanted to point out is a lot of these protests, especially the ones I saw over the weekend, and I don't mean to rag on my boomers all the time. I actually called my dad after I ran into a few of the protests. Not ran into him. Oh, God, not that. That's not what I mean. There's a joke in there, but it's a little too graphic. I can't. It's just not funny anymore. The amount of cars that are. Anyway, we're not going to go there. I called my dad and I was like, Dad, it just seems like it's a bunch of boomers out there. And of course, he lives in Texas and I live up in New York. And he's like, son, the boomers down here love Trump. And I was like, I forgot. Yeah, but I'm up in the Northeast. And the boomers up here are hardcore liberal. And I think they're just, here's my take, and you can mention the chat if you want. I think they're just trying to relive the 60s, guys. The truth is, I like that they're out protesting. And the reason I think it's mostly boomers is most of these people are retired. And they want some thrill in their life. Now, do I think they really do hate Elon and Trump? Well, absolutely. Absolutely, they hate Elon and Trump. But the funny thing about all the protest signs that I see, and you see them, none of them are for the things that you should actually be mad about Trump with, like the tariffs. Or, I mean, I can go on about this. If I should have joined in on the protest this weekend and just said, hey, Pam, where's the files? Because that would be something to be really upset about. Because Elon is just pointing out, there's a bunch of stuff in here, fire who you want to fire. But these people don't know that, but that's fine. They just need somebody to be mad at. These boomers, really, I think the boomers just like holding up signs, like they're reliving the 60s. They're like, let's smoke a joint and get out there and protest like we did back in the day during the Vietnam War. These people all love war now, by the way. I don't know if you know this. They're like, Elon's bad. Send more money to Ukraine. They love war. But they're like, we got to hold signs up for something. And so the boomers are out there again, reliving their glory days, smoking joints and holding up signs. Anyway, we're going to continue this video. Just wanted to point that out. I noticed it. I don't know if you noticed it.
Peaceful protests. Peaceful protests. Peaceful.
All right, so I wanted to highlight this point. And this is where we get into the actual topic, the rated R for R-word. I wanted to bring this up because I think I've heard this before multiple times. I'm not the only person out there who's pointed this out. And this is a generalization. I'm not talking about, it's all lefties and right-wingers. And they're not monoliths. People have different diverse opinions. I get it. But in generalization on the political spectrum, it seems that there is a divide. All lefties like to call right-wingers Nazis. Right? You see that all the time. Like, everybody's a Nazi, like this girl right here in this video. And it seems like the retaliation from the right wing is to call left-wingers retards. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but that seems to be the difference. And I think it boils down to these two different factors, which seems to actually line up. The reason why the left wing hates the right wing so much is because I think they legit think right wingers are evil. Like, they're actually evil. They want people to be deported. They want families torn apart. They want to see all the poor people in misery, and they want to, hang people from trees and burn crosses. They're evil. They're just flat out evil. Left wingers think right. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but in generalization, they think they're evil. Whereas in the right wing thinks all left wingers are dumb. And it just seems to be the same thing. So if you go on Twitter right now and you look at the left wing and how they correspond with the opposition of the political spectrum, it's a lot of Nazi talk. You're a Nazi. You're a white supremacist. You're whatever. And then on the right wing to the left, it's you're dumb. You're retarded. That seems to be what it is. So I think it is a fairly true statement that most lefties think right wingers are evil, and most right wingers don't think the left is evil. They just think they're highly misinformed and are miscalculated, which does seem to back up. It does seem to, like, if I can't seem to find any proof. There's a few right wingers like, these people are chopping genitals off kids. They're evil. I get it, but I think for the most part, it just seems like it's a bit R-worded. And most right wingers are using this. Now, here's where we come to our first issue with the R word. We're going to talk about the R word a little bit right here. Here's where we run to our first issue. And we've seen this over the past few years. Back in 2014, back in 12, 2000, all this stuff when political correctness was coming out. Things like the term racist, the term white supremacist, and the term Nazi actually meant something. Like, if you were called a Nazi, you were like, oh my God, this sucks. I'm not a Nazi. What do you mean I'm a Nazi? But it was so overused that it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, if you were going to chat right now, I'm like, David's an R word, or David's a Nazi, or David's an R-worded Nazi. I'd be like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Only one of those is correct. But again, it doesn't mean anything. So when I said only one of those is correct, I meant the R-worded one, not a Nazi. But you can call me one. That's fine. Just doesn't mean anything because those words were used too much. Now, here's my big fear when it comes to the R word. Are we using it too much? Are we just throwing it out there willy-nilly? Are the R words out there using the R words and it's turning the R word kind of R-worded? No, it's just inception. It's R-worded inception. It's just R-word inception. I'm afraid that we might be using it too much. We might need to veer off and become a little bit more creative. But as of right now, it's been utilized pretty well. Again, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my God, this is just going to be David making fun of lefties this whole time, calling them R. It's not. There's actually a moral of the story. I don't know if you know, I'm a fairly empathetic and compassionate person. We're actually going to talk about if this is a difficult thing to do. But for right now, we're going to have fun. This guy's got a meter. They're calling him a Nazi, and he's calling them all basically retards. And that's what we're doing. That Tesla sign has a Nazi symbol. Okay, finally a sign where it has the swastika with the line slash through it. Most of their signs are just swastikas, which is utterly confusing because they're like, you're a Nazi. Check out my swastika. We talked about this last week with the Tesla things. It's confusing. But again, if you're on the right and you're looking at the left, you're like, no wonder their signs don't make sense. They're R-worded. What do you do about that? And you can't really, all you can do is have fun and make jokes. And again, because I don't think any of these people, I think they're doing their civic duty. It's very American to protest. And sadly, it's becoming very American to make signs that make no sense while you protest. And to not actually have any substance while you protest. Just be mad at something and put up a sign. Anyway, we're done with that. We're done with that clip. Anyway, moving on. So that was my big part of the first part. I'm nervous about using the R word. So here's a caveat real quick. Actually, I don't know if I want to go that far. I don't know if I want to dive in deep. I don't know if I want to dive in too deep. Let's move to the next topic. We'll do this in a minute because I got this whole thing staged out. We'll do this in a minute. So one of the things that seems to be used too much, what people are talking about being used, you like how that transition is? We're using the R word too much. You know, the other thing we might be using too much is the T word. And when I say T word, it means it's tariff. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my God, we're going to lecture about David's view on tariffs. Because tariffs are in the news. Trump had Liberation Day. To be honest, the Liberation Day seemed a bit R-worded. As I'm not going to lie to you. It did seem a little R-worded. Calling it Liberation Day seemed weird. Should have been called Tariff Day. Would have made more sense. It's again, Trump pulled a little bit of a lefty move, made a title of something that makes no sense. But he came out with tariffs, and you guys, back when Trump was running, he definitely let's go and put some things down on the door. Trump definitely ran on doing tariffs, like hardcore tariffs, because I remember talking about it on this podcast. I mean, like, not a big fan of tariffs. I did vote for Trump, but I was just as like not cool with tariffs. There's a bunch of stuff where I was like, I don't like this. And guys, it happens to today. And what I did see online a lot was if you voted for Trump, you must love tariffs because it's all in or nothing. Nope, nope, not an absolute. I voted for Trump for particular reasons. Tariffs wasn't one of them. Did I know he was going to do the tariff thing? Seemed like it. Seemed like he was definitely going to go forward with this. Am I mad he's doing it? Yeah. Do I regret voting for Trump now that he's tariffing everybody? Nope. Still don't regret it. And it's not because I'm an R word. It's because I knew what I was going to get when I voted for Trump. And most Trump people who voted for Trump knew what they're going to get. It was going to be a little bit of stuff you like and a little bit of stuff you don't like, just like every presidential election. Except for the Kamala thing. There was very little I was going to like about that. Very little. Matter of fact, if you were put me on the spot, gun to my head, David, what would have you liked about the Kamala thing? Content for my show. That would have been it. Content for my podcast, and that would have been all there is. There was nothing about that I think I would like. Anyway, because I hate to tell you this, guys, we had tariffs before Trump was in. Biden just kept those rolling. Kamala would have done the same thing. Anyway, they didn't ramp them up. Trump ramped them up. I don't like the tariffs. And so Trump's got a message for me. Here's a clip about Trump signing in some tariff stuff. Let's take a look at this.
This executive order is for allowing people who are complaining about your tariffs to be permanently labeled as whiny, retarded, sad little bitches.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening?
Is everybody listening? Guys, I'm included into that executive order. Technically, I'm not. And I know what you're thinking. Like, David, did you just pull this AI fake clip in because it drops the R word? Yes. Yes, I did. Plus, it talks about tariffs, which is in the news today. But just so you know, when it comes to dropping the R word, this is the difference. If somebody like me uses the R word, most of the time I'm referring to myself in that standpoint. I do this a lot. It's called self-deprecating humor. And the funny thing about jokes is there's always a little bit. The only way a joke is funny is if there's a little bit of truth involved. And the truth is, you guys know the truth. You guys watching this for a hot minute. So yeah, there's a little bit of truth in my self-deprecating humor, calling myself the R word. The other thing, crap. Now I forgot what I was going to say because those folks see this is what happens when you're R worded. Yeah, I totally brought that clip in because it's funny. It's not real, obviously. If you think that was a real clip, then you're R-worded with me. But yeah, I'm included in that. And I thought that was funny. I thought that was a funny clip. Now, did that make me offended? No. And it's the same. This is where I like to juxtapose it with terms like racist or Nazi. I don't call myself a Nazi, but if I did, it would be a joke. Why would it be a joke, David? Because obviously, not a Nazi. And so, how come on this end I can make fun of myself by calling myself the R word? Played a clip of Trump sign executive order calling me an R word. Then I'm not all up in arms. Is it because it's fake? Probably. But I'm also, the only reason I could be upset is maybe we're overusing the R word. Guys, I was just wanting to play that, to be honest. I had no real storyline with that. I just thought it was funny. Mentions the R word. It fit into the show pretty well. If you guys think that was tasteless, buckle up. Because I think it's all downhill from here. I'm joking. Guys, you know what else is tasteless? Here's a cool segue. You know what else is tasteless? Promos in the middle of, actually, let's rant about this real quick because I'm about to do it to myself. Since I'm an R word. You know, when you're watching, I have a particular, speaking of boycotts and boycotting Tesla, there's only a few companies that I boycott. And the only companies that I hardcore boycott are the ones that run ads in the middle of my streaming service. So if I'm watching Amazon Prime that I paid for, and I'm like, man, Jack Reacher is beating the crap out of people, and I'm loving it. Here comes the big fight scene, and then it cuts to an Allstate commercial. Guess what? Not buying Allstate. Boycott. Boycott, boycott, boycott. Every time a commercial comes up, you want Folgers coffee? Never drinking that again. You need a VPN while you're listening to this podcast? Never getting a VPN. Track me everywhere. All the time. Every time one of those stupid things pops up in the middle of my shows, my stories, or my podcasts, instant boycott. I don't know how advertising's doing it now. I just want you guys to do the same. So if we can get on this band, if we all boycott every ad that pops up in the middle of a podcast or middle of a streaming service, then maybe we'll stop getting ads. They'll start picking up like, hey, when we started running this ad in the middle of Reacher, all these people just stopped buying our stuff. We had drop in sales. We should stop running the ads. And then boom, we won't have any ads anymore. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of ads, I don't know if you know this, but I create a game. I'm going to do a quick promo for it. If you go to flintlockandfog.com, this is my website. Guys, it's a tabletop RPG like D&D and Pathfinders. And it's right off the bat. We're just starting on the ground level. Right here, I got the player's manual available on Amazon right now. It's large. It's packed full of how to play the game. Basically gives you all the rules and all the ways to go about it. But since it's a tabletop RPG, it requires people. You can't just play this on. I mean, you could play this on your own. I did. I beta tested it with Grok. It was me and Grok going back and forth. But that's not what you want. This is a great way to get your friends around the table to play stories like, Jack the Ripper and Frankenstein, all your Victorian era quests, all that stuff. I got those coming out. But to be honest, there's not a lot going on. It's just a player's manual. I'm up in front and honest. But I wanted to tell you about that. So if you or anybody you love is really big into D&D, and here's the thing, there's no one who's likes D&D on the periphery. If you've played D&D, you're either like, this is for nerds and I'm never touching it. I'm going to go back to drinking beer and watching football and being R-worded. Or you've played D&D, you're like, I might have to get a D20 tattoo. There's really no in between. And so if you know anybody who loves D&D, point them to this, flintlockandfog.com. It's just starting off. If you sign up as a beta tester, you get all kinds of cool stuff, all the stuff for free. You don't even have to buy the manual. You can download it as a PDF. Because really what I want to do is I want to get people playing this game. Again, it's right on the ground foot. There's not a bunch of quests out there yet. That's all coming. But if you join in now, you sign up for the newsletter, you become a beta tester, just sign up. All of it's free. You get to be a part of the game creation. You get to roll this thing out with me. Anyway, do not follow my advice. This is the one time where you can hear an ad read in the middle of a podcast. Do not boycott that. Do not boycott that ad read. But boycott everything else. Every time there's a commercial that pops up in the middle of your TV show, you're free to boycott that because those commercials are R-worded. We all know what they are. All right, so my next clip, this is where we get a little bit not serious. It's hard to be serious with a title like Rated R for R-word, but I'm going to do my best. This is where the thinking cap comes on because we're really going to actually talk about the use of language and the meaning behind it. There was an online commercial that came out talking about the R word and its use and what it implies and what it means when you start using it. And I think the reason this came out is because if you go online, that word is everywhere. And and again, I'm going to go into this detail. There's a good and there's a bad to this. And we've already talked about one bad. The overuse of it makes it not you. But then again, that's a double-edged sword because do we really want the R word? Don't we kind of want to overuse it so it loses its steam? Answer to that is yes, because we don't want people to think we're serious. But the also answer is no, because then what's the next step up? We're like, hey, the R word is just being overused now. What's the next thing we can use that's a little bit more offensive? That's where we would end up going. Anyway, take a look at this video. We're going to watch this through. I might pause it after one thing, but I'm going to try to let this whole thing play through. So I really want to chit chat about it, but there's a lot in this video that I want to talk about. So here we go. Take a look.
Most people don't think about the R word as hate speech. That's exactly what it feels like for millions of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, their family, and their friends.
All right, I'm pausing it right there because what she said is hate speech. And I'm just making a mental note for you. We're going to chit chat about that hate speech thing. But I want to finish this out. We might actually come back to it. Just mental note.
While the R word used to be a medical term, it became an insult to demean those with intellectual disabilities.
70% of all social media posts about intellectual disabilities are negative, and 60% of those use the R word.
200 million people with intellectual disabilities are marginalized.
All right, hold on. All right, so this is where it gets tricky because there's a lot going on in this commercial. So let's start off right at the bat. In the beginning, there's a bunch of where the R word's crossed out. I know what they're doing here. I understand it. And to be honest, I don't. So let's right up front. This was posted on Twitter, and I don't think you even have to use your imagination much to understand what the comments were. Yeah. I wasn't in that comment section either. You won't find me in that comment section. I'll just scroll and reading, but they're pretty much all the same sentiment. Welcome to the internet. That's number one thing. Let's go back this. I genuinely think I know where these people are coming from, and I think it's coming from a great place. I think it's coming from a very good place. The same place people were talking about political correctness back in like 2009. It all came from the same place. Like, hey, we should really tamp down on some of these things because people are really starting to be offended. Like, people are being offended. Now, truthfully, do I think people with mental disabilities are offended if you call Nancy Pelosi the R word? No, that's a lie. The people who are offended that you call Nancy Pelosi the R word are people with not mental disabilities. I mean, mental illness maybe, but not the disability part. There's the people that just like Nancy Pelosi. That's where it comes down to. But let's stop on this hate speech one real quick. Let's fast forward. We're going to pause and go through.
Most people don't think about the R word as hate speech. That's exactly what it feels like.
All right, pause. Guys, you guys know my feelings about hate speech. I understand like hate speech gets tossed around. There's actual laws in other countries where it's illegal to cite hate speech or say things that are hateful. As a Christian and a libertarian, I would never lock you in jail for saying something hateful, even if it was to me in the comments right now. If you were just blowing up my comments, never be like straight to jail. Hate speech it's not real. Speech can be hateful for sure, but hate speech, when people throw this term out, again, this is one of those willy-nilly things. Defined by who? And she says exactly who it's defined by. Because it's exactly what it feels like. There's no real parameter on that. I know to my audience, I don't have to go into like, do you guys know what hate speech is? And I don't have to go through that whole diatribe. There's no parameter on hate speech. It's just if someone feels like they feel bad about it, they're offended by it, is now it's hate speech. So hate speech is ridiculous right off the bat. But in an ethereal sense, if this person feels like, if their mental disability, or this person obviously she probably teaches special ed, she's like, hey, every time I hop on Twitter and tweet Elon's a Nazi, I get all my comments are bringing up how I'm R-worded, and that's hate speech for people who have mental disabilities. And so she's probably feeling that personally against her, but she's probably also been like, why? Well, and again, she probably teaches special ed, and she doesn't understand the difference between using a word as an insult and then using a word like a real insult. So if you were to, let's sit for a minute. If you were to go to, actually, no, this is brought up.
For millions of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, their family, and their friends.
Okay, right there. Their family and their friends. I guarantee you, how many people do you think are out there outside of like a Lifetime movie marathon special where there's an actual bully who's calling mental disabled kids the R word? You think there's somebody out there like, look at this R word? No, I don't think it's happening, because then it doesn't make any sense why using it. Well, I mean, I guess it could make sense. I don't think it's happening. I just don't think it's real. The people who use the R word most likely are friends with her because they're a bit R worded themselves. So I don't think that's real. What I do think it's offended of their friends and family. And this is where I think it's important. Because their friends and family probably legitimately are offended when they see the R word used on Twitter. Are they allowed to be offended? Absolutely. And it's awful. But if you don't want to be offended by the R word, just don't get on Twitter. What are you doing on Twitter? Go on to Blue Sky. It's filled with R words, and they never use the R word. Blue Sky is where you belong. If you're gonna, Twitter's a bit of the Wild West. So this is where I get caught up in. And we're going to talk about this for a hot minute before we move on. I'm going to use a great example. There's a time and place for everything. This goes back to overusing it. The R word is a bit of a shock value. We're going to chit chat about that. But there's a time and place for everything. And when using certain words, you give up a bit of decorum. And there are some places where you should never use certain words. You can, but at your own detriment. And this is what I mean. I don't think this person's warning you as if you didn't know. Like, do you think she's going like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but every time you say the R word, it actually offends me. Now, if it offended her, would you really bother? You're like, no, I really don't care what you think. But if it offended an actual mental disabled person, then you probably would actually care. You're like, oh, this actually does offend me. Now, I'm a contractor in my real life. I don't know if you know this, but I'm not a professional podcaster. I know, hard to tell, right? And I've also worked in ministry. I've also done a bunch of, and these are things that I do all the time. Now, don't go to my house. I don't go to like houses and people are like, hey, what do you think about this cabinet work? And I go, well, that cabinet work's retarded. That contractor must have been retarded that you came in here. Don't worry, I'll fix this retard stuff. Never say that. And David, why not? Why? It's not against the law. And it puts your point across. You're really emphasizing the fact that contractor did really crappy work. Again, is it necessary? I could just say they know the work is bad. I know the work is bad. And me just affirming it, I don't need to go the extra mile. And this is what I was talking about, you overusing the word. But again, the only person this is really going to hurt is you. You messed up. Have some decorum. You're a man or you're a woman. Learn to use the word precisely when you want to use the word. I'm not saying using the R word is off limits. I think it's very good to have. I just think we should be a little bit more choosy about when we use the R word because we don't want that insult to lose its steam. You don't want to offend actual disability. Again, I don't think people with mental disabilities are offended, but you wouldn't want to anyway. And you don't want to lose that job you got because in a conference meeting, you decided to drop the R word all the time. There's a time and place for that. Twitter might be the time and place. All times and place is a great place for that. But in your real life, dude, don't drop the R word. Don't do it. I know what you're thinking. Like, David, this sucks. The R word's so much fun. Sure is. You know what else is fun? Being unemployed. That's a great time. When you're unemployed, say the R word all the time. Do it. I'd love to. I'd love to hear you say the R word while you're asking for change at the stoplight. I'd love that. Use the R word every time a car drives by and doesn't give you change. You just yell the R word at them. I think you're doing great, kid. I think you do great. Anyway, I was going to say that. Use it when you want. Let's move on to the rest of this thing. I'm just saying it means a lot. We're going to get back.
While the R word used to be a medical term, it became an insult to demean those with intellectual disabilities.
70.
Okay. It was a medical term. There's a lot of medical terms that we use. I'm not going to say, I'm really just wondering what I can get, what'll get me kicked off. There's a ton of medical terms people use as insults. That one's not the only one. And if you go to a quick internet search, you'll find a bunch of them. To call someone an R word is probably not your best bet. What I like to do on this show, and we're just going to say it's all right. I don't really like to try to insult people. I like to insult people's opinions because sometimes their opinions are R-worded. They are. And this is the difference between using the R word properly and not. Sometimes people need to be, the shock value of calling someone an R word is important. But for the most part, you just be like, hey, stop doing that. It's a bit retarded. You don't have to go full on, you are a retard. You can just say, hey, that's kind of stupid. And you can say stupid, but obviously stupid doesn't have the impact. So let's talk about shock value real quick. And you're like, David, aren't you a Christian? Don't you believe in Jesus? Don't you love your neighbor? Absolutely. I love my best friends. And here's how you know my best friends. This is how you know I really love them. Because when they're being R-worded, I love them so much to call them out for being R-worded. And you're like, David, that doesn't seem very biblical. Hear me out. This is a way out of context explanation for why it is okay for you to call your close friends the R word. Maybe not, not your clients, close friends. Keep that in mind. In the Bible, Jesus is talking to Peter. And at one point in time, he's like, Jesus goes, they're going to come and take me away and they're going to crucify me. And Peter's like, no, they're not going to do that. I'll fight to the death for you. And then Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Now, that was a big shock to them back then. Now, he could have said, get behind me, R word, but it wouldn't have meant near as much. It was way worse. He actually called Peter Satan for his opinion. So, am I going to use this scripture to say I can call people with R-worded opinions? I can just call them an R-word? No, that's not what I'm going to go with it. But shock value is important. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to go through. Actually, to be honest, this clip, there's not a whole lot more. I just want to move on to the this language thing and why it's important. And this is to be honest, this is the crux of the whole. This is the only reason why I did this. And the title says R word. Rated R for R word. And I didn't even think about how many, like, oh, that would be a nice clickbaity title. And sure is. Sure the heck is. But this is the real important thing. I think in our generation where we're getting nowadays with AI and all these things, I think people are forgetting the fact that actual things have meaning. Like language has meaning, things have meaning. And here's how I can tell you why. And this is a great example. This is where I get it from. I've been in the art world for quite some time. And I've gotten to the point where I've seen enough art and I can normally tell and pick apart and categorize art pretty specifically as in whether or not something actually means something and whether or not someone's just trying to make something maybe aesthetic or they're just trying to express their emotions. Now, here's the thing, and this is, I'm pretty staunch on this. Abstract art where you're just expressing your emotions, it's not real art. Now, art is subjective for sure, and so is language. Language is subjective too, and this is why I'm tying these two together. I'm afraid that we're moving into an area where language no longer means anything important, the way art no longer means anything important. So when you go to an art show, those clips that are online all the time are like this performance art or this art is just like it's crap art. It's what is Hunter Biden doing? This is terrible art. I don't want to get there. And I want to make sure we categorize meaning versus not. I want people to, when they make art, they make good art and they have meaning behind it. Every one of my pieces is tied to an actual meaning. Most of all my fine art, like this one behind here, is tied to a scripture and has a meaning behind it. Actually, you could probably preach a sermon over it. That's how awesome I am as an artist. Regardless, everything I do when it comes to art, when it comes to podcasting, comes to writing, poetry, making a D&D game, all of it has an actual meaning and a purpose. Even the D&D game. And I don't know what you're thinking. Like, David, you got bored and you're a bit on the spectrum. And so you made a D&D style game called Flintlock and Fog over here on this side. Sorry, mirrored, whatever. There's an actual meaning behind that. And I went into it last week, but I want people who are creative I want to build a road for them to easily walk down. I'll do all the work and they can go through. Everything I do has meaning. And what I'm afraid of is we have generations coming up where they can get away with doing things without any real meaning. Like TikTok dances. What's the meaning? You ever seen those clips where like, hey, here's 4 new TikTok dances to say you support Ukraine? Meaningless. Like, well, they're dancing for Ukraine. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm worried that we're using language the same way people are starting to use art, where they can just splash colors like a Jackson Pollock and go, $3 million. Look at the emotion in that. Meaningless. It's meaningless. And not only and being meaningless makes it mean garbage. So what I don't want people to start to use words, especially something sacred like the R word, and just have it lose all meaning. Guys, to be honest, I think the word Nazi and racist should have meaning. And I'm actually mad that it was overused and used on stupid occasions so much that where now they don't actually mean anything. That it doesn't mean anything anymore. And I don't like that. The only benefit out of that comes when people have to start being a little bit more creative when it comes to using language. So you can't just go to your quick ones like R word or Nazi or stuff like that. That's the only silver lining in this cloud. But I don't want people to start thinking willy-nilly, just throw out things like, look at the language of these new kids coming up. Frizzle drip. Like, what is that? Skibbity. What the hell is skibbity? And I know I sound like a boomer here, but seriously, these words mean something, but there's nothing to it. It's awful. We got to save the generations coming up and teach them to start using words that mean something. So if you're going to use the R word on the internet or to your friends, do it with meaning behind it. Put your chest into it. And so that's all I'm saying. If you're going to use words like this, make sure that means if you're going to call someone a Nazi, make sure they're an actual Nazi. That might help. That might actually help to distinct between people you just don't like or you disagree with their opinions versus actual Nazis. And if you're going to call a lefty a retard, it's not going to mean anything anymore. They'll be like, oh, look at this. Of course, whatever. Those words don't mean anything. Not going to get it. And you don't think the lefties are evil. You just think they're dumb. So then we're going to have to start coming up with other crazy words. Anyway, I'm ranting about this. This is why I think things are meaningful. I agree. I got a video clip of an R word. He's not R-worded. He's not R-worded, but his opinions, I mean, over the past few years have definitely been R-worded opinions. So our old buddy Sam Harris. Now he came out on a podcast or whatever. He does his little podcast, and it's a hoot. His monotone voice will carry you right on into the afterlife, because you're just going to want to die after listening to him. Anyway, I liked Sam Harris for a time period, even though he was an atheist and a bit insufferable. He was not an R word. He's not an R word. He's a smart guy. And I just don't understand what's going on with me. And I thought it would be ironic and a bit R-worded to listen to this clip about him talking about meaning behind what you say.
Joe is
So
a
let's take look at this
genuinely good guy who wants good things for people. But he is honestly in over his head on so many topics of great consequence, right? When he brings someone on to just shoot the shit about, how the Holocaust is not what you think it was, right? And maybe Churchill's the bad guy in World War II.
Was that Tucker?
Or he's got Dave Smith, being treated as an expert on Israel and Palestine and the history of that conflict and the moral emergency that came to the world's attention on October 7th. And what is appropriate to think in the aftermath of all of that, right? Dave Smith is the only reason why anyone knows what Dave Smith thinks about any of this is very likely because Joe had him on multiple times to talk about it, right? He's a pure misinformation artist, and on top of many others. And when Joe talks to someone like Trump or Tucker Carlson or any of these other guys who lie as freely as they breathe and doesn't push back against any of their lies. In fact, in Trump's case, really very.
I want to pause it because I think you kind of get the gist of it. Again, he's a bit insufferable to listen to. He has a meditation app, which I think is friggin' hilarious, because one thing while you're meditating is you're just trying to forget all things and focus on your breathing and empty your thoughts, which you kind of have to empty your thoughts to be a fan of Sam Harris at this point. But what he's saying is actually a bit ironic, because he said a bunch of stuff, a bunch of things in the past about Trump and how he's okay with Hunter Biden's laptop having a ton of terrible things on it just because he thinks Trump is Hitler. But in this is another avenue, another inception of this meaning thing. So if you were to take Joe, like, Joe needs to really pay attention. He's talking about Joe Rogan and all the guests he's had on, and obviously he's bringing up the anti-Semitism thing, which is another example of overuse of a word. I don't know if you saw that clip that came out this week where the guy came out and said it's not enough to be anti-Semitic, you have to be anti-Semitic, or a lot of antis in there. Again, that word's been thrown around so much where it doesn't mean anything anymore. It just doesn't mean anything. And so that's a BLM playbook right there. It's not enough. It's the same thing. It's not enough to be anti-racist. You have to be anti-racist or whatever. He's doing the same thing he's accusing Joe of doing. But there's something a little bit more deeper than this, because what if the meaning behind Joe is to not platform? Because he's saying Joe shouldn't platform these people who are misinformation artists. Like, the content of their words means something. And what he's saying is that it means the wrong thing. Like, it means the wrong thing. But it does mean something. And what he's afraid of is the things that mean something actually, like, permeating into the zeitgeist or into the culture. And that's basically what he said about Dave Smith. Dave Smith is only famous because he's controversial, and he's only famous because Joe had him on, which is, yeah, kind of. I mean, Dave had a following before he went on Joe Rogan. It just grew from there. But I just think Sam Harris is mad because he's not on the Rogan podcast. He definitely won't be now because he can't stop talking about how awful they are. But what if the meaning, and this is where we get into the correlation between meaning and everything. What if the meaning is to not have meaning? In the art world, we call this absurdism, where art is absurd because the fact that it's meant to not have meaning. That is an art form in itself. And so if the R word is meant to, and which I think is what it's really meant to do, is where we're getting this. The use of the R word is not to denigrate people with mental disabilities. I think it's a term of endearment because we would never say that to a mental disabled person, but we would call Nancy Pelosi the R word, or Chuck Schumer, or whatever. Their R word. So the idea of meaning behind everything, you can also have meaning, like the meaning behind Joe's podcast is to hear all the voices. Doesn't have to agree with them. Just platform everybody. You guys know this. We all know this. There can be meaning in just the exploration of thought and other things that other people mean. If you start on this Sam Harris path where you're like, he needs to be more responsible with his words, which is literally what I was just talking about. So me and Sam are on the same thing. There needs to come a point in time where you can't do that. You can't just be, what's the word? This is why I've said the R word so many times on this. Because the last thing I want to do is create a law out of something that should just be birthed out of your own intellect or your own compassion. That's why you'll never hear me come on here and be like, it's not enough to not say the R word. You have to be anti saying the R word. Because I don't think that's good. I think that's dumb. And I think Sam Harris is dumb for saying this. It's not enough for you to not have these people on. You should be against having these people and what they say. You should push back. You should push back because of what you say. You should disagree because it's misinformation. Sure. But at the same time, if the more you push back and the more you closet these people and you push them off the side, the bigger they grow. And, you got to contend with those things. So my point behind it is should you use the R word all the time, every instance? No. But should you never use the R word? No. I think you should use the R word, but use it strategically. God, this is such a weird podcast. And here's another scripture that's a bit more in context. And Paul was talking, I think it's Galatians. Oh, I might be totally wrong on my scripture. Either way, he's saying, as a Christian, you can eat of the meat that is sacrificed to other gods or other animals. Animals back in the day in the Bible, sacrificed to gods, they burn it, and then people would eat them. So it was like sacrifice to whatever god of that time is. And he tells a Christian, and in the Bible, he's like, look, me and you both know that you can eat that meat because you're not worshiping that animal. That's ridiculous, right? We all know that this weird sun god thing, it's dumb. This is dumb. And they're sacrificing this sweet tenderloin, T-bone steak to it. You can eat that. He goes, but what you don't want to do is if your friends are a Christian and they're young in the faith, you don't want to eat that in front of them because they're not quite where you're at yet. They don't know that it's okay for you to eat that meat because you're not worshiping that, and they can fall into a category where they'll just start eating meat and thinking that it's okay for a Christian to worship another god. And so he's saying, look out for the people who are not quite as experienced for you. They're not quite developed in whatever ideology you're in or whatever you're at. They're just not mature as where you are. You have to consider the people who are immature around you that are following your lead. It's basically what Paul's talking about. And so I want to take that scripture and actually relate this to. This is why I say, if you're going to use it carefully, because we don't want it to lose meaning. And when I say meaning, I'm not saying like I'm trying to offend mentally disabled people, but also don't use it immaturely around people who don't understand that. Because what you will have is you have Sam Harris's run around thinking that it's okay just to call everybody, even mentally disabled people, the R word, and it's not. So there's a little conundrum for you to think about. Really, it just comes from maturity. Use the R word, mature. And here's what I mean. You're like, well, David, people are gonna use the R word and they're gonna use it frivolously. What are you gonna do about that? You're like, well, you call them the R word back, and everybody has a good laugh. Here's why it's funny to laugh at the R word. Oh, before we got feminist misogynist coming in saying hello. We are talking about you tonight. Check out the top. No, I'm joking. She's a good person, a good friend of mine. That's why it's okay for me to call her the R word. Because, like I said, every joke has a little truth. Check out this video clip. I wanted to do this because I kind of wanted a bit of a timeline cleanse. And I thought this would be pretty cool. Speaking of what we're talking about tonight. Take a look at this clip. We're going to watch this because you guys know I like to always end on a cheery note. Take a look at this. Oh, let me hit play. Oh, this is actually, let me say before I get into it. This is a clip from the Kelly Clark show, Major R Word. The show's okay. But she's actually talking to people that are on this show that's been out for a while called Love on the Spectrum. Now, I think Love on the Spectrum's a great TV show. And I think it's doing exactly what the same as using the R word is doing too. And I'll explain. This is my last point. We're going to explain. But first, we're going to watch this, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So check this out.
So we know how much that you've enjoyed that video. So we asked Jack if he can make another video for you. So check this out.
Okay. What's up, Tanner? Jack Black here. I still cannot wait to meet you in person. But I'm on the road with a Minecraft movie right now. But luckily, I have insane ninja kung fu powers, which means I can come through these doors, and I'm gonna see you right now when I come through these doors.
I'm your biggest fan. You're a great actor and a good singer. So I'm happy to meet you. Jack, I'm happy to meet you. Hey, Jack, this is Miz, my younger sister.
Great to meet you.
Miz, I'm so glad we're finally meeting you, Jack.
All right. Here's the reason why I brought that up. I love the show Love on the Spectrum. Have I watched it? No, but I love the concept of it. And the reason I love the concept of it is because, oh man, this is so deep. This is where I'm going to try not to veer off because we're already almost an hour in. But I could legit do an entire podcast about this. Hardcore. Productivity is not the same as value. So, hold on, I gotta bring this up. Feminist misogynist brought up the clip. Ew, they're making out. Who, him and Jack Black? All right, let's be honest up front. Jack Black is a bit R-worded. I like Jack Black too. And me and him disagree on almost everything politically. Like Jack Black, specifically because he does stuff like this. Now, the reason why Love on the Spectrum is great is because the last thing you want to do, here's what it does. It shows you the world of somebody. Like that guy, if you do some research into that kid, he's on the spectrum. He has autism. And so I don't know if I have to explain what Love on the Spectrum is, but it's a dating show where they go past dating with people who have autism. And what it's a great insight is it shows you that these people are, even though they're mentally disabled, they're just as human as you. And this is where the topic where it gets deep is because a lot of people, especially if you're godless and you're materialist, productivity, your ability to bring value to the world is in what you can do. Whereas in a monotheistic, I'm just going to say Christian ethic is everyone has value regardless of what the productivity is. That's why people are so against, especially Christians, and this is why I don't want to go in this because it's rabbit hole, are so against abortions, while there's a whole sect of political thing that where if your child looks like they might be autistic, people will get abortions because of that. I've listened to someone who actually struggles with having an autistic kid and they regretted it. And I was so horrified by hearing that. And the one thing I told this person, because I was talking to them, was I hope they never say that anywhere near their autistic kid. It's horrifically bad. But there's a problem when it comes into utility. Like if your productivity, your utility to the world and the society around you equates your value, you've got it all wrong. And this is why I like this. And this is a long route. This is why I like this. Just because someone has a mental disability doesn't make them any more valuable or less valuable than you. Even though everyone watching this is a bit R-worded. It's ridiculous. You guys are R-worded, but the fact that people think because this person has, autism, their value is less because their utility is less. It's a very Nietzschean way of looking at things. And it's horrific. Now, with that said, everybody, because the Christian ethic is we're all made in the image of God. Doesn't matter what your utilities, your position and role. We get people talk about this all the time when it comes to marriage. Like marriage is a good example. People a lot of times will say, well, I'm egalitarian. In a marriage should be egalitarian. It's equal. Everybody's equal. The problem is they don't understand role differential to value. People always, this is what I'm saying in our culture, this is why things need to have meaning. They believe that your role equates your value. If you're a CEO of a company, you're more valuable in this world than, the guy who cleans the toilets. But according to Christianity, you're not. Your value is found in who you are. Your roles can be completely different. Same with the marriage. the guy's role, even though he's the head of the household over the woman or the wife, doesn't make him more valuable than her. It's a concept our generations do not understand because we equate value and utility. This is where I'm getting to with the R word. This is why I love shows like Love on the Spectrum. Is because you see the value in people that you would not normally give them the same. And what I like about Love on the Spectrum is I think it's flipping the tables on the way people treat mentally disabled people. They're just as valuable as anybody who's not mentally disabled, which makes calling Nancy Pelosi the R word perfectly fine. Perfectly fine, because it's not denigrating in value. I would never call Tanner, which is that guy that just hugged Jack Black, I would never call him the R word. I would call Jack Black the R word. But the reason behind that is because when I say R word, I'm not talking value or utility. Really, I'm talking about, well, yeah, I'm talking about utility. Nancy Pelosi is far more R worded than Tanner from Love on the Spectrum. And that's why it's okay. The more people start to realize that people with mental disabilities deserve respect, is the more you should be able to use that word. It's not a sacred word. You'd be like, don't say the R word. You might offend the mental disabled people. What do you mean? Are you calling them mentally disabled? Wouldn't that be worse? You're saying they can't handle hearing the word R word? Isn't that a bit of like a soft bigotry of low expectations where you're not allowed to say the R word because it might offend somebody with mental disabilities? No, they can handle it just like everybody else can. And I say this from experience of being around people who are R-worded. Then I'm not just making a joke about people who act like me. I'm legit mentally handicapped people. Treat them normally. Treat them like people, because that's what they are. They're actual people. They don't need to be coddled. Yes, there needs certain cares, but when it comes to don't call them the R word. But you would never do that anyway. This is why this whole R word thing is so stupid. So yes, use the R word. Use the R word when it's meant to be used. But take care of it. We don't want it going away. We don't want it being overused, and we don't want to treat mentally disabled people differently than you would treat anybody else. They're just as important. They're just as value. I would hate to be like, don't use the R word because they're not like us. They won't get it. No, that's pretty retarded. That's what that is. Super retarded. We got one more clip of Love on the Spectrum. Just because I like this show, I thought I'd play this. Let's take a look at this Love on the Spectrum clip. Let me see if I can pull this up. One more clip from Love on the Spectrum. Here we are. This is Love. Yep. Love it. Whoop, it's still playing. Hold on a second. There you go, people. So you guys thought, like, hey, all these people calling Elon a Nazi. No, he's just R-worded. He's just retarded. He's legit. He's autistic. But R-word is not a bad word. The intention behind it, like, guys, last thing about this. Intent is always prior to content. If I use the R word, I'm using it with a particular intent behind it. The content might be the same as if I call myself an R word and I call Nancy Pelosi an R word. The content, which is the R word, is the same. Intent's completely different. One, I'm being self-deprecating. One, I'm making fun of Nancy Pelosi. That's it. Intent is always prior to content. Everyone thinks Elon's a Nazi when really he's just the R word. It's fine. One last thing, guys. Hold on a second. We've got comments coming in that I have not been reading. It's just feminist, misogynist. No one really cares what she thinks anyway, so we're not going to see what she's got. I'm just joking. She was in reference to the Love on the Spectrum. Apparently, she loves it. She said facts, and I might actually save this and pull it up as a graphic every time I say something important. Even if she's not in the chat, I'll just pull it up. She says facts. And then we also got I Am Legacy. Zach coming back in says, why do people believe murder is okay? I think that's in reference to the abortion thing. It's because they think value is tied to utility, Zach. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They think value is tied to utility. And they believe that mentally disabled people can't handle a fun joke. And so they treat them different. They treat them lesser than. These are the same people who would be like, it's fine. Yeah, just if there's a little chromosome missing in the fetus, go and get rid of it. And that's when you start going, well, maybe these lefties aren't R-worded. Maybe they are evil. Not my Frasier's. We got feminist misogynist coming in and said, I put a shout out to you and had to delete it because it added a word. Sorry. Yeah. I don't know that. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the rules are. I don't even know if I'm probably only on X at this point in time. Guys, I got one more clip. It's already now. We're going in. I thought we'd end this with a one more important thing about the R word. I know we went super serious tonight, and I did that on purpose. As I told you, Pardon Live is going to be having fun clips. We're going to be making jokes, lots of jokes all around, but I also wanted to bring a moral to the story. And so if you got anything out of this podcast, it's use your words with intent, understand intents prior to content, so that intention's pretty good. And that's pretty much it. Don't, if you want to keep your job, don't throw the R word out like you're on Twitter all the time. Use it with intention. And when you're using with intention, I think we'll be okay. I think it won't be overused. One last clip for everybody. We're going to end this segment with this. This is our favorite Eastern guru. I forgot his name, but anyway, he's got a good point. Talking about democracy.
Government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
It's true, guys. That's democracy for you guys. Guys, hopefully I overused the R word. Hopefully everybody is sick of me hearing saying the R word. This will probably be, well, it definitely won't be the last time I say the R word. Guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Every Sunday night, Pardon Live, 8:30. It's always a good time. Always trying to start your week off on the right foot, because I want you to start your week knowing that, let's not take everything so seriously. Let's not be too mean, and only do things with intention. That's the whole point of this. Everything needs to have meaning. Everything we do needs to have meaning. We don't want to wear things out. We don't want to we don't want to be R-worded. That's where it comes down to. Let's avoid being R-worded when using the R word. Guys, that's it. If you want to be extra R-worded, go and like and subscribe, you jabronis. Don't forget to check out Who Touched It. Wearing the shirt, Bohemian Grove. Go to whotouchedit.com. And then if you're like, hey, I like to play an R-worded D&D game, go to flintlockandfog.com. It's my game. Love to have you sign up there. Love to become part of the community. It's a great time. Guys, tune in next time. We're going to be going over more R-worded stuff. 8:30 Sunday nights, Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, David Lilly.